Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Marvin. Just watching the forecast and watching the window to see how much and when this rain's gonna get heavy.
Yeah, so I guess you guys are you're on the kind of the backside of the hurricane that turned into a tropical depression that went through Louisiana, right?
Yeah, Ida. We're supposed to get probably it's Tuesday night, tonight through Wednesday, sort of mid morning, about an inch and a half of rain, which could happen, could not. Forecast kind of jumping around, but we're certainly not supposed to get as much as further north in Virginia. I'm not a weatherman. I don't really know how it works, but they're, up in the Shenandoah Valley, supposed to get upwards of 2, almost 3 inches of rain the next couple of days. So we'll get some. The rivers are going to bump, but it's kind of, unfortunately, if I got trips in the morning, the next day, a little too early to tell what's going to happen.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, it's been, a little bit dry this summer, so the trout fishing is not there, and you might get rained out for a few days. But, as you were saying, it's been so dry that hopefully if you get a lot of water, it won't help your guide trips for the next couple of days, but maybe fishing will kind of be back to normal by the weekend.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I mean, if you're a full-time guide and you got days booked every day and you need water, you're sitting there praying for rain, but you're probably going to have to cancel or reschedule a couple of days if it happens. Because we certainly haven't had sort of small portions of rain to keep us in check this summer. And we did get, we were talking, I guess, 2 weeks ago or so, we got a bunch of rain from another tropical depression, and it's spiked things up for 3 or 4 days, but the ground's just been so dry and the water table's so low that the ground just ate it up in a couple of days, and we were back to low water pretty quick. So, hopefully if we do get an inch and a half, 2 inches of rain today and tomorrow, we'll the ground will be a little more saturated than it was last time, and we'll see the effects of it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and in terms of your bite, I was just talking to Ethan over in Central Virginia. He was saying that their smallmouth bite was slowing down a little bit.
We certainly haven't seen much of that. The last couple of weeks have been pretty fantastic, and the topwater fishing has been really good. I saw the first dog days cicada dive bomb into the water on, it was the last Tuesday, I believe, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we were catching fish with 1 and 2 and 3 cicadas in their mouths, and so that's really kind of going on right now. And again, we've got good conditions for it. We've had pretty stable weather. I was just filling in my fishing logs from last week today, and it's been about 90 degrees air temp and about 82, 83 degrees water temp for the last week. So things have been pretty stable. The bugs are dropping, the water's clear, and all of that's fixing to change tonight, I'm sure. But, again, the effects of this rain, I can't imagine are going to last too long. And we'll be back to probably some of that good fishing we saw last week, probably by the end of the week or early next week.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Ethan was telling me where he was fishing, which is probably, it's definitely a tributary of the James, right? He said the water temps were in like 85 or 86, so a little bit warmer.
Yeah, they have a little bit warmer climate up there too. I'm from that area originally, so I remember, through the summer, it being in the mid 90s, upper 90s some days, even, low hundreds in the peak of the summer. We, our hot days in the summer are usually low to mid 90s, and I don't think we've been above 91 since the end of July. So we're a little bit cooler. We've got a lot more trout stream influence, higher elevation and all that. So we stay a little bit cooler, and I imagine that probably has something to do with Because I mean, I hear it every year from the guys up on the James how in the peak of summer the bite sort of slows down or becomes a little more, crepuscular early and late. And I have a feeling that's probably just because their water temperatures peak out a little bit higher than ours, and it just slows the fish down a tiny little bit. But 82 degrees is not it's not far off of the smallmouth sort of optimal activity level, water and body temperature. So that's what I like to see in the summertime.
Got it. And so, obviously, if you get a lot of rain out of this system, water's going to get cloudy. If you get a lot of water, right, it's going to put fish to the banks and put them on structure for a while. How long is it going to take for things to clear back up before the topwater bite comes back?
It's hard to say. I mean, so the big deal with the new, again, the upper and lower New are really two different rivers. The upper New gets dirty real easily. So I don't really see a world in which it's not dirty for the next, week or two after this. The lower New, where, I'm typically spending most of my time in the summer, is it stays a lot clearer because it's pulling water out of the lake. It's not, and unless that lake fills up with dirty water from the upper river, the water that's coming out of the dam is never super dirty. But what can happen when we have one of these big sort of regional soaks like we're getting is several of the tributaries can get hit and they can dirty up. But and that takes a big wide storm just because the tributaries of the lower New, like Wolf Creek and Walker Creek and Rich Creek, they're all, fairly large creeks that come from their own watersheds, that are in different directions. So it'll really just kind of depend on which ones of those watersheds get hit, as to, how dirty the main stem of the river gets. And on top of that, it just kind of, if it's not super dirty, especially with the cicadas dropping, we should still be able to do some topwater fishing with, a couple of feet of visibility. And the smaller the river, the more viable that usually is, just because there's less water for them to kind of hunker down in, and those fish will feel and notice the presence of a bug flatten down a little bit more. So, we may be streamer fishing for a couple of days, but I don't see, the topwater bite getting killed too bad by this.
Got it. And we've got a question for you from John, and John is from PA, and he was curious if you can dry dropper fish for smallmouth, kind of like you can for trout.
You definitely can. And in most scenarios, I mean, I don't really fish any of what you would call a dry fly, coming from the trout world for smallmouth. They're all going to be, poppers, cork, or very rarely foam, bugs. And, you can fish those kinds of bugs with a dropper fly. I've experimented with that a little bit. Smaller, flies like gummy minnows or like small hellgrammite imitations or damsel and dragonfly nymph imitations. But so I haven't noticed anything too spectacular in doing that. And sort of my focus through the summer too is looking for sort of those upper echelon fish with topwater flies. And a couple of times I have fished that way to experiment. I have noticed a little bit of a lack in big fish coming up to inspect flies, and I have a feeling that might be because a lot of times when those big fish slide up real slow to a topwater bug, they kind of hang out underneath the fly and inspect it for a little while, and if they've got 12-pound tippet hanging in their face, may put them off a little bit. I don't know, but certainly experiment with it. I it's not something that I've really incorporated into my program, but I have done it before and it does work. But I should probably mess around with it a little bit more than I have too.
Well, there you go. And, folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us or send them to us on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if we use your question, I'll send you some Articulate Fly swag, and we will enter you in a drawing for something cool from Matt at the end of the season. And like we always do, Matt, we're always curious about what you're writing for the Rural Virginian this week.
Yeah. So, it's almost tomorrow is September. So we're approaching fall. We've got a bunch of hunting seasons that are starting to come in. The squirrel season opener, which it used to always be the 1st of September, but they've changed it several years ago to where it's the first Saturday now. So that's this weekend, and I'm just going to kind of put out the sort of announcement article and be talking a little bit about sort of a foreign concept to a lot of people, but the concept of squirrel migrations, which have been documented in history, some really interesting sort of large scale events of just huge numbers of squirrels moving around in the sort of regionally looking for food as mass crops up on our nut bearing trees. So kind of looking at that, taking a little bit different spin on just the normal, squirrel season this year article. So that's what I'm trying to put to bed today or tomorrow, and that'll be out next week.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, dove season is going to be here before you know it too. It's, within a few days.
Yep, that too.
Yeah, and if you want to cheat and tie yellow hammers and not get in trouble for finding or using flicker feathers, you can dye primary wing feathers from dove with RIT dye and use those, and they work great.
Exactly. Yeah, because I guess it's illegal anymore to tie a true yallerhammer because the northern flicker is a protected bird.
Yep, that's exactly right. So
I've gotten lucky a couple of times and had them fly into my window, but you can't get them normally.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about whether possessing the feathers is a problem. We'll save that for another fishing report.
Exactly.
Well, listen, I know too, and before I let you hop and you can tell people how to reach you, I know you've had some late dates open up in your guide calendar. So you want to let folks know about that and know how they can reach out to you?
Yeah. We got a couple of dates in September, the last 2 weeks, and I've got a couple of days, and then the second full week, I think I have like the 13th and 15th and 16th available because we had an international trip cancel. So those are available, and then I've still got a fair amount kind of in mid-October-ish. And I've said it before, but I have a feeling the way that summer's gone that, we're going to be fishing a summer pattern pretty deep into October this year. So I would almost look at October like just an extension of September. We should still have some great topwater fishing all through the month if the weather pattern stays, the way it has been all year. So if you want to get in on that, you can reach out to me via the website, which is mattreillyflyfishing.com, and all my contact info is on there. So however you feel best reaching out, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that it's a whole lot more comfortable to fish in October for smallmouth than in early September.
It is, man. Last week was it was a hot one. Like I said, it wasn't mid 90s, upper 90s, but we had right at 90 degrees every day. Humid and very little wind, which, usually I'm cussing wind, but it was stagnant all week last week. And I think at least 2 different days we drank like 2.5 gallons of water. So, I'm looking forward to a little bit of a cool off, and I think we're going to get it with this system, and it's certainly going to get more comfortable into September.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Marvin.